John, what do we got first?
Well, round one is the Hot or Not segment. And this is in this segment, we take a game that is perceived to be the new hotness, the game that's out there really tearing it up. And we all play it and we judge it by those merits. Do we think it's hot? Do we think it's not? And
That's how you met your wife, right?
No, there's no judgment call to be made there, my friend.
Hotornot.com, right?
No. There you go. So anyway, on the table today for Hot or Not is going to be the latest from Stonemaier Games. And Stonemaier Games, it's one of those companies that whenever they release a game, it's big news. It hits all the YouTube channels. Everybody talks about it. Everybody's got to play it because unless it's named Pendulum, it's usually a game that people want to play. So this time that game is Apiary, and I'm the big theme guy. And I said, "Oh, it's about bees." Well, it is about bees. It's about bees that they give you some they don't give you a reason. Somehow men are off the face of the earth, and women. People are off the face of the earth, and so it leaves a gap there for leadership, and so bees take over. And not only they take over, they start expanding out into space. So we got bees going out in space on their spaceships. And before we get into it too much, let's have Daniel show you how it's played.
Apiary is a worker placement game. On your turn, you get to do one of two actions. You can place a worker onto the board, or you can retrieve all your workers and taking the farm action. The different actions you can do is explore. When you place your bee on the explore action, you can move the queen bee up to the number that is on the die. The other action you can do is grow. Growing allows you to recruit new bees and expand your bee ship. You can research, which allows you to draw from the card deck. You can take the advance action, which allows you to take a tile and place it onto your ship. You can also take the convert action. This allows you to take something you have and change it into something else. And finally, you can take the carve action. This allows you endgame scoring points that goes onto your hive ship. What's interesting about Apiary is the bumping mechanic. Anytime your bee is placed onto a location, it will bump one of the bees that are already there. If your bee happens to bump off the table, it will increase in value and it will go back to your spaceship. If your bee is ever on the board and it's a 4, it will unlock a special power at each one of these locations. But the disadvantage of the 4 is when you recall them or they are removed, they no longer go back to your ship. Instead, they will go into the grow area to be recruited later. The game, anytime the 4 comes off the board, you'll place one of these tokens onto the hibernation comb. Once the hibernation comb is full, that's going to end the game. The other action you can do is retrieve. When you retrieve, you will take any of your bees that are on the board and take them back to your ship. For every bee that you take off your ship, you are allowed to activate one of your farms. So this is a simple game in that sense. You just take 2 actions, you can place or you can retrieve. Everything else, the complexity comes from the interactions on the board. So let's go see what we think of Apiary.
Great job, Daniel. I couldn't have done it better myself. Excellent. And so, as you can see, it's like a worker placement game, bee placement game, where your bees can upgrade. And so start out with the components, Stonemaier Games, and it's great components. And twice when I played this game, someone has asked, is this like the upgraded version of this game? No, this is the game, because it looks so cool. The queen bee that you move around to get resources, amazing. Your own little bees feel great. And yeah, they work great. How you just rotate them over to upgrade them and chunk them in there. And it provides a lot of great, like every worker placement game should, it provides a lot of great decisions for where to go. I love the bumping system where you bump other bees off. Sometimes you want to be bumped. Sometimes you don't want to be bumped. And because you're like, now I want to recall all my bees next time. And so you might not want to be bumped. Sometimes you do want to be bumped. You want to upgrade. So there's so much going on, but it's also not that overly complex. A lot going on, not a whole lot of complexity to learning what's going on. And so to me, I mean, initially here, just to throw it out there, I'm going to say it's hot. I enjoyed the game every time I played it. And I think it's another hit from Stonemaier. I don't think this is one that's going to be a flash in the pan. I don't think this is one where everybody's going to be anticipating it and it goes away. I think it's going to be not a wingspan, but I think it's going to be more in the wingspan range than it is in the Red Rising range or something like that, where it's hot for 6 months and then everybody forgets about it. I think Apiary is here to stay. The bees are going to rule, and they're going to rule from space, and there are new overlords. So I think hot or not, I'm saying hot for Apiary, and I'm anxious to hear what you guys have to say.
Well, first of all, you know who their leader is, don't you?
No.
The space bees?
No.
Their leader is
it's the queen bee.
Buzz Aldrin.
There we go.
Uh,
I am
good.
shocked that joke was nowhere in that game.
I'm
Or
here-
at least that I didn't see. Maybe
I'm-
one of the bees was named Aldrin.
I don't
If
know.
it wasn't, they missed the mark.
they really missed it. And I'm here all week, by the way.
There you go. Chris, what do you have to say about it, buddy?
So I have played this the other night, and I've only got one play in, but I'm just quickly gonna say that if I had to pick hot or not, I'm definitely picking hot. And actually, I didn't even think about it until John was talking about it. I think this might be my favorite Stonemaier game. We all know how I feel about
Wow.
Wingspan, and Scythe never blew up my skirt. Like I was just kind of like, whatever,
Whoa.
it's fine. It was just whatever, I don't care. And I haven't played Tapestry. I want to play that one, but for all the ones that I played, I think this is my favorite game. Like John said, it's not overly complex. There's like 5 or 6 different places that you can put your workers. I think 5 or 6 different places. I like the system of like not only do the numbers go up as you get bumped off. That's a cool mechanic, but also the fact that each one of them has a very specific, powerful ability that if you go there with your 4, your highest level B, then you get to do something special. And I really like that. And you only get to do that a few different times because pretty much each of your Bs is only going to get to 4 once. You're not going to get the same B to 4 twice normally. I really enjoy that. I enjoy the fact that like I was playing basically in a lot of ways a different game than everybody else because I was focusing on one type of. There's 3 different types of tiles, and I was focusing on one of them specifically based on the one of the 2 player powers that I was given. I chose that one. I was like, all right, I'm gonna go heavy based on this one. So I always enjoy games that give you kind of like the small player power to start because it gives you a direction to go with, right? Like I had never played the game. This is literally what I was telling Daniel. He was sitting next to me and I was like, I don't know what to do here. So I think I'm going to go with this one because this gives me direction of where to go. It's always nice to have something to give you some direction on that first play when you have no idea what's going on in the game. I knocked over the mic. And because I talk with my hands, people, you just don't see them ever. Anyway, so I really enjoyed that. I mean, and then again, like the production is really nice. The bee that you use for the Explorer is unnecessary for it to be a miniature, but while I was sitting there and John was talking about it and I was thinking about bashing it, I mean, yeah, I guess I could have a standee, either cardboard or a wooden one, but like I got to thinking, I was like, well, I mean, you got to have something to like move the pawn around. So yeah, having the 3D not 3D printed, but the actual like bee miniature to move around is kind of cool. And the individual like pawn type of workers of the bees themselves are really cool. So all around I really enjoyed this game. I don't have to go and get it, but it's also because it's like the ocean of other games out there that are good, but like don't blow you away. So I really enjoyed it. But yeah,
Chris, I gotta say, I'm really excited for Ryan our friend Ryan to hear this episode because I played it with him. And he was like, there is no way Chris is going to like this game. Ryan thought he would rather play Challengers than this game in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
So-
I could. When he told me that, because he was like, I'm interested to find out what you think about the game overall at the beginning. And I was like, okay, I thought it was the normal, I want to know what you think, right? And then he's like, by the way, I wanted to know this because Ryan hated it. And I was like, what? Yeah, so yeah, it was really interesting.
Funny what you said there about getting direction, because it's like you're saying, you can have a base power that gives you somewhat of direction that you can start on, but there can also be all the tiles that come out. You can be like, well, I got that one and that one. Now I got a whole different direction because those are going to be points on these, this, and this. And I'm going to, so you can like pivot halfway through the game. And actually at the end of the game, when you got all these 4s you're trying to place before the game is over, that's some good decisions too. Is like, well, everybody's going to go with that. That's probably not going to be there. I'm going to go over here and get this. And yeah, you can try to zig where other people are zagging to try to get your points at the end. Pretty cool.
Yep.
Well, I got to say, guys, that I feel like I'm inclined to somehow criticize this game now because you guys are so lovey-dovey with it. But I actually think it's a pretty hot game as well. It's a beautiful game. Love the components. Looks great on the table. I guess if I had to complain about one thing, I'd complain that while most of them are upgraded components, the little larva cardboard things are a little bit eh. And also, shuffling the tiles can be a little tedious. But these are really first world problems, right? I mean, because there's a huge stack, like the farm tiles, right? They look great, but I mean, shuffling them is just tedious.
I love shuffling tiles, Andy.
I mean, you just have to do it
It's
once,
never
good
good
at
for
it.
me.
It's whatever. Again, these are
Keep
very
going.
minor complaints for a wonderful game. What I do like about it, as kind of what's been mentioned by both of you, is it feels like it's a very unique game each time I've played it. I think I've played it 4 or 5 times now, and I've only had one bad experience. Now, the bad experience I did have was at a 5-player count. I will say that it is not good at 5-player, in my opinion. Why? There is a lot of time between turns, and the one thing that mitigates time between turns in some of these strategy games is the ability to plan ahead, right? It's like, okay, well, at least I can be doing something. Well, in a 5-player game, by the time it got back around to me, almost every single time what I was waiting on was gone. So the tiles that were there, I was like, oh, I could do that. My strategy had to change once again. So I didn't like that. Again, only experienced it at 5 once. I've played it at 3, I think 2 or 3 times, and once or twice at 4, and it was great at those player counts. I think it really shines at those. I love the fact that, it's a very different game each time, depending on what your unique player power is. Although the nice thing about it is there's unique player powers, but I don't feel like they're unbalanced. I feel like they're pretty well balanced, and they're not like crazy unique, but they're just unique enough to make it a little bit different. I also love the fact that there's strategies within strategies in this game, right? So there's the different hex tiles you can go after. You can go after the farms, you can go after the apprentice bees or the instant hexes, but you can also really focus on the cards, and the cards are super powerful. I mean, I love the fact that they've got these instant powers on the cards that sometimes can be great or not great depending on what you're doing, and then planting them. My one complaint early on when I first started playing was like, oh, it's so hard to plant these things. You have to have a 4B to go down here and go to the research one to plant one. That's almost the only way. There's a couple hexes that do too. But I was really upset by that. But then I realized, no, it's because they're super powerful. Because some of these, like for instance, the last game I played, I had a great engine going. I had the bees that could trade 3 resources in at any time for a honey, and you could upgrade it so it was 2 resources in for a honey. And then I got the carve tile, the hive tile, that was 4 points per honey in your thing at the end. And it was like, wow, this is amazing. Now I didn't get that engine going fast enough. It got me second place, but if I'd got it going a little faster, it probably would have gotten me first place easily. But anyway, I love the different variety. There's different paths to victory, and like John said, you can pivot in the middle of the game, but also you got to be careful not to pivot too much, because if you pivot too much, you're going to just be like, oh, I got a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and you've played a very mediocre game. Anyway, sorry, I went over time. Apiary, though, I've really enjoyed it. Daniel, what say you, sir?
Well, before we go to Daniel there, real quick, just like what you were saying about the planting the seeds, was I didn't even get the planting the seeds the first time I played. So why would anybody ever do that? It takes a 4B to go there and do that. But you know what? It's a lot easier than getting the carved tiles, where you have to first get the honey, then get there with your 4, and then hope the right one is there. Whereas if you already have the seed card in your hand, you just need a 4B, put it over there and plant it. You're done. And so they don't always give you as many points, but if you plan for them, they can get you a lot of points. So I hope I didn't take your thunder there, Daniel.
No, you didn't.
Okay.
None of you guys did. I'm going to be the one that's on the outs on this one. In
really?
the end, this game is, it was fine. I played it 3 times. The first 2 times were not great experiences. One of it was the 5-player game that Andy was in. And the 5-player was just, oh my gosh, dreadfully long. And then I played one with Chris that he liked it a lot, and that was a better experience. But there's a couple things
Better
this game's
company.
got going against it for me. One is that Queen's Honor track, the Queen's Favor track, feels like completely it feels unnecessary. Every time I've played this game, somebody's got into 25 with ease without even trying. Also, when you max it out, so some people have a strategy. First time I played, it was my strategy to try to max that out. Well, then you get halfway through the game and you're just like, now everybody else is going up there just on accident because they had an extra resource here or there, and they get +1, but I get nothing. Like, I'm getting nothing from that. So like that track just felt like just complete throw in. Also, this game has the flaw that I'm not a big fan of, and that is when you can take a quick action. I think Chris later described it to me as like when the actions on the board are unequally fast. So some boards some places you just place the action and you take it just like that, while other people take like 10 minutes for their action. And this isn't an Andy time complaint. This is legitimately, there are some actions. So if you're taking like 4 quick actions and the other 3 are on their long actions, all you're thinking the whole time is, oh my gosh, I just want to do my really quick action. Can you please hurry this up? But they are taking an appropriate amount of time, but it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel like the flow. The flow is constantly being broken up by these long actions. So in the end, I don't know. It just didn't sing for me. I wasn't that excited about it. It feels like a very vanilla game in a sea of 1,000 games. This one feels like it's dead smack in the middle. I Chris
Wow.
made me realize how people could really enjoy this game because of that pivoting and how open it can be from one strategy to the next. But in the end, like, I don't know, like, I don't see this being as big as Wingspan. I don't see this being as big, like, I don't know. I think it's going to fall off in a year. People are going to start talking about it. So I'm going to go with not hot at all. But hey, I'll be proven wrong, I'm sure. But as of right now, not a big fan.
So Daniel, actually, I have a question for you because I know when we played it, you told me that you were at the top of the Prestige or whatever
Queen's
it's called,
Favor?
the
Queen's
Queen's
Favor.
Favor track, and you
Yeah.
lost. Has the person at the top ever won in any of your places? I was at the very bottom by a large margin. I was at like number
Yeah.
7 out of 25, and I won by like 20 points. So
Yeah, you're right. No, it hasn't. Nobody who's ever maxed that out has won because
Well,
I think it's a lost resource. If you're
Nope.
focusing on
I'll
it,
bust that
then
theory
you're
right
losing
now.
other points. Okay.
I'll bust that theory right now because I played last night, and the guy who won was further up on the Queen's track. He maxed it out, and a lot of us were about 10 points behind him, and he won by about 20 points, and that was a big part of it. So,
One thing about the Queen's track that I think in a lot of our games, everybody seems to just start going up it and don't ever go down, is nobody ever does a dance where it costs you 2 spots on the Queen's track. I've never seen anybody do that in a game. And that's one of the things that you can do is say, I'm going to get rid of 2 of them. And then, that if people are taking that, then they're if they're not focused on keeping it up. I wasn't ever focused on keeping it up because I had that power you had where people bump you, that you go up automatically. So I'm never investing any resources into going up on it. It's just going to go up. And so that it helps you do that. It's just like free points.
anybody else, when you go to the action to do a little dance, you think of that song, do a little dance,
Do a little dance,
make a little honey,
get
down tonight, get apiary tonight.
Oh yeah.
Anyway,
that sounds like that's wrapping that up. Anyway, what do you think about Apiary? Have you played it? Have we influenced you in any way, shape, or form? Yay or nay? Let us know in the comments, and please like and subscribe.
Thank you so much for watching it in this video. If you'd like to watch the full episode, check out the description below. Around the Board is a board game video podcast where we talk about board games and other board game related topics. We assign points to one another based on our banter, and then at the end of the show, whoever has the most points is given a small amount of time to talk about whatever they like. So if you enjoyed it, please join us in the future around the board.